अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाह। आज हम लिक्विड स्टेट लेंगे और इनकी प्रॉपर्टीज़ हम पढ़ेंगे। कल हमने पढ़ा था सॉलिड स्टेट एंड इट्स प्रॉपर्टीज़। सो सॉलिड में जो सॉलिड इज़ दैट स्टेट ऑफ मैटर जो हमने कल पढ़ा विच पोजेस rigidity. They are rigid and they are incompressible. They cannot be compressed except few exceptions are there. Few exceptions are there. They have a definite shape and definite volume. ये हमने कल पढ़ा था. So solids have rigidity. They possess high rigidity. They have a definite volume. They have a definite shape and distinct boundaries. They do not possess the property of diffusion. आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे लिक्विड स्टेट एंड इट्स प्रॉपर्टीज़. सो लिक्विड स्टेट में जो इंटर पार्टिकल जो पैकिंग है, इंटर पार्टिकल्स की पैकिंग है, वो दैट इज़ लूजली बाउंड. यानी इनके जो डिस्टेंस बिटवीन द पार्टिकल्स हैं, इंटर पार्टिकल डिस्टेंस, इट इज़ ग्रेटर दैन इन सॉलिड्स बट नॉट दैट much greater than in solids. And hence the interparticle forces are weaker. Greater voids or interparticle spaces, interparticle distances, greater voids are बोलेंगे या and weaker forces of attraction between particles which make up the liquid. So what is the definition of liquid or liquid state? Liquid is that form of matter which possesses the property of fluidity. It is almost incompressible. Solids are highly incompressible. They are almost incompressible. They cannot be compressed much. Little they can be little compressed. Hence we can say liquids are almost incompressible. So liquid is almost incompressible and hence has a definite volume but not definite shape. Liquids have no definite shapes. So this is the definition of liquid state. That form of matter which possesses fluidity is almost incompressible and hence has a definite volume but no definite shape. What are the properties of liquid state? वो हम डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं. नंबर फर्स्ट अगर रिकॉल करेंगे हम लिक्विड स्टेट में जो है जो दे हैव रिकॉल करेंगे सॉलिड्स की. सॉलिड्स आर डेफिनेट शेप एंड डिस्टिंक्ट बाउंड्रीज and definite volume. But liquids जो हैं liquids do not have fixed shape. Do not have fixed shape but have a fixed volume. This is the first property of liquid state. They do not have a fixed shape. Why? Again, reason is the interparticle forces of attraction. In liquids, they are strong, but not strong as in case of solids. They are strong enough. However, they are strong enough to keep the particles of the liquid together. Therefore they have a fixed volume, but these forces are not so strong they can so that they can keep the particles in their fixed positions. Suppose this is the fixed position of the particle. They do not keep the particles. These forces are not strong enough to keep these particles in their fixed positions. They flow, they move, they have greater freedom motion. That is why liquids do not have fixed shape. They do not have fixed shape. They have different volume but not fixed shape. These interparticle forces are not enough so that the particles can what is called this they are not strong enough to keep the particles in fixed positions. These particles move, means they follow, they have a, hence liquids do not have a fixed shape. They take up the, अगर हम लेंगे vessel different लेंगे, they take up the shape of the container in which they are placed और in which they are put. अगर इसमें हम लिक्विड डालेंगे, इसका शेप है वही लिक्विड ऑक्यूपाई करेगा, वही इसकी शेप बनेगी. अगर इसका शेप इस तरह है, अगर इसमें लिक्विड डालेंगे इसकी शेप ऐसी ही बनेगी. सो दे टेक अप द शेप ऑफ द कंटेनर इन विच दे आर और vessel in which they are placed. ठीक. So liquids do not have fixed shape but have a fixed volume. This मैंने जो बोला रीज़न यही है, interparticle forces of attraction. Liquids are not so weak, they are strong but not strong as in case of solids. And these forces are strong enough to keep the particles together. Therefore they have fixed volume, but they are not strong enough to keep the particle in fixed positions. That is why liquids do not have fixed shape. This is the reason why liquids have no definite fixed shape. They take up the shape of the vessel in which they are placed. Second property is liquids show the property of fluidity. या जो हमने पढ़ा था solids में, solids possess rigidity whereas the liquids possess fluidity. By fluidity we mean that the tendency of a matter to follow. Liquids follow one place to another. This again due to interparticle force, interparticle distances in case of liquids, and weaker force of attraction. Then in solids, liquids can flow and change shape. Thus liquids do not they are not rigid but possess this property. They are not rigid but possess property of fluidity. That is, they flow from when they are put on some surface. Liquid flows. But the relative fluidity of liquids vary. अगर हम लेंगे example water and glycerine, जो हम यूज़ करते हैं glycerine घरों में, इसकी जो chemical एक है, ठीक, water flows faster whereas glycerine flows slowly because its fluidity is more. ये भी हम बोल सकते हैं its fluidity is less. It is ये example लेंगे honey or water. Honey flows lesser than water. Water flows faster than honey and glycerine. So second property is जो हमने discuss की fluidity. Liquids possess fluidity. They are not rigid as solids. Solids are rigid, liquids are not rigid. Third property जो है, they are incompressible, almost incompressible. They cannot be compressed, almost incompressible. However, they can be compressed slightly. That is why it is the term almost incompressed, because a liquid cannot be compressed much because its particles are still quite close, but not close as in case of solids. They are quite close and have very very large and have very small spaces. Small spaces between them. but not small as in case of solids. So they are liquid is almost incompressible. Fourth one is जो हमने पढ़ा था, solids generally do not show diffusion, but अगर मैंने हमने एग्जांपल लिखा था, अगर चॉक से हम लिखेंगे बोर्ड पे, फिर 15-20 दिन हम वेट करेंगे, वो फिर इसका जो रब करना मुश्किल होता है, इसमें भी डिफ्यूजन होती है सॉलिड से, मगर बट नॉट इट टेक्स मोर टाइम. बट जो डिफ्यूजन है इन केस ऑफ लिक्विड्स, it is liquidus possess property of diffusion. Liquidus possess property of diffusion. The rate is much than in solids. Again जो है इसका रीज़न ये है, interparticle distance in liquidus is large than in solids. The particle liquid have freedom, they have freedom, क्योंकि जो interparticle distances हैं, it is quite greater than in solids. Hence these particles have a greater freedom, more freedom or greater freedom motion than in solids. Therefore solids, liquids and gases, they all can, solids, liquids, gases can diffuse in liquids. Gases all can diffuse in. Example अगर वाटर लेंगे, इसमें शुगर डालेंगे, water is liquid, sugar is solid, so it dissolves in water. Go liquid, solid can be dissolved in liquid. It's called diffusion of solid, diffusion of solid in liquid. Example लेंगे diffusion of liquid in liquid, वो है dissolved oxygen in water, जो aquatic plants use करते हैं, क्योंकि जो all living creatures हैं, they need breathe for survival. The aquatic animals or animals can breathe under water due to presence of dissolved oxygen in water. So example यही एक दो ये है. This is called diffusion of gases in gases. अगर लिखें diffusion of liquids in liquids, हम water is added milk is added to water, that is diffusion liquid. यहाँ alcohol is added to water, that is liquid in liquid. ये हो गया dissolved oxygen in water, that is gas in liquid. Gas in liquid, diffusion of gases into liquids. ठीक. बट ये जो रेट ऑफ डिफ्यूजन है, इट इज़ डिफरेंट फॉर डिफरेंट लिक्विड्स. यानी अगर हम लेंगे एग्जांपल लेंगे हम अगर हम लेंगे एग्जांपल, सपोज हम लेंगे इसमें एक वेसल लेंगे, इसमें पानी लेंगे, अगर हम इसमें इंक ड्रॉप डालेंगे, रेड इंक ड्रॉप, वो सेपरेट जल्दी होगी. इट सेपरेट्स throughout the water becomes colored. But if we drop few drops of honey in this water, it takes much time to dissolve in liquid. So we can say that rate of diffusion is different for different liquids. Also जो अगर heat temperature से ये diffusion जो increases होता है with rise in temperature, rate of diffusion increases with rise in temperature. Example लेंगे, एक वेसल लेंगे, इसमें cold water लेंगे, दूसरा वेसल लेंगे, warm water, equal amounts of water, हम equal amounts of sugar इसमें उनमें डालेंगे. जो sugar हैं, जो हमने put किया है, जो हमने डाला है किसमें, warm water में, it dissolves greater than that which is dissolved in cold water. Difference is rise in temperature. Here temperature is greater, diffusion increases, rate of diffusion increases. So rate of diffusion increases with rise in temperature. This is all about liquid state and its properties. So liquid state is that form of matter which possesses fluidity but it's almost incompressible, hence have definite shape but no definite volume. Properties are liquid do not have definite shape, but have a definite volume. Liquids possess fluidity, second property. They are almost incompressible. They cannot be compressed much. Liquids possess property of diffusion. These are the properties of liquid. Thanks.